Hi guys, welcome back. Sometimes step families aren't the best. This was posted by Sugar Soda. Rules. I hated my stepmom ever since my father married her. It was obvious that the feeling was mutual as she hated children. My father tried to pretend that we were one big happy family, but it was clear that he knew the truth. She enforced these stupid rules on me that I hated. The dumbest one was no electronics at nighttime, as she thought I wouldn't get any sleep. Thankfully, my father listened to reason and made her drop that one. Unfortunately, I had to obey other pointless rules like bedtime before 9, and I wasn't allowed to watch shows she didn't agree with. I spent lots of time at my friend's house over the next few months just so I didn't have to deal with her. Dad's work sent him away for a conference, so he would be gone for a week. I begged him to let me spend a week by one of my friends, but he refused. He kept saying it would be a perfect chance for us to bond. She had a smirk on her face after he left, as she knew she was in charge. I went to my room and decided to spend as much time there as possible over the next week. She walked into my room at 9 and told me go to bed. I noticed she grabbed something from my bedside locker. When I confronted her, she reminded me of her rules about no electronics at light time. I begged her to return it, but she walked out of the room. I ran out the door and I heard the key turned on the other side. There was footsteps walking away and I realized that she wasn't going to return it. I started to feel lightheaded as I hadn't eaten for a couple of hours and there was nothing to eat in my room. I hammered the door and begged her to return my insulin pump, but she pretended that she couldn't hear me. The next story is posted by Decorative Gentleman, Survivor.
Hello, you.
I think as I watched her, silently observing the expression on her face. She carried on like nothing had happened, like she hadn't been tied to a bed and tortured for 3 long days before she finally escaped. It was all over the news. Madeline Parker, survivor of Sleep Tight Slayer. She was the one that got away. A seed of hope for all other young single brunettes who lay awake at night, counting the windows in their house and assuring themselves that each one of them had been locked. Of course, she was not the one that got away, and I brought her a gift to prove it. The Sleep Tight Slayer. It's a ridiculous moniker, a concoction of some reporter who saw the nylon straps holding the victim down and thought the name was clever. I assure you, not one of those women slept. There was too much fear for that. Madeline stepped out of the coffee shop into the night. She doesn't seem as cautious as she ought to be, but probably assumed that a serial killer wouldn't diverge from a pattern. She's not home, so she's safe, but that's not how I felt about the whole thing. The coffee shop was a normal Wednesday night out. She wasn't hard to track down. She's a creature of habit, oblivious to how dangerous a habit of lonesome nighttime walks can be. As she rounded the corner on 14th Street, I picked up my pace. I can see my car block ahead of her. I need her to get there. She kept walking, and just as she neared it, I made my move.
Madeline.
A startled jump as she turned around.
Do I know you?
I opened the trunk with my key fob, and she turned back at the sudden flash of the taillight as I advanced. She sees my gift, and her eyes widen with a mixture of fear and uncertainty.
No, but I know you.
She stared speechlessly at the blood in the trunk.
And you know him?
I can see the recognition clicked on her face, which suddenly turned to panic.
Is he?
She began to ask.
Dead.
I reply, you see, she's not the one that got away. She's just the only one who came forward. I stayed silent. I was afraid, but when I saw John Dave Willis, the Sleep Tight Slayer, the day before, the fear gave way to rage. He didn't see the knife I carried to feel safe from him, but he felt it. He felt it again and again. I go to hug Madeline, and she let me.
You're not alone, Madeline. I survived him too, but he didn't survive me.
This story was posted by Grand Theft Motto. We can't stay in the basement for more than 30 minutes. Make sure you start your timer the instant you cross the threshold. You'll feel a sensation as soon as you open the door and start down the stairs. There's a tingle, like walking through an electrical field. Static tugs at you gently. It's not entirely unpleasant. The feeling fades quickly as you descend. The temperature varies step by step. You encounter pockets of Arctic air, heats as if in a foundry, dead breeze that hangs like apples from invisible branches. Once you reach the basement floor, take a moment to collect your bearings, memorize your surroundings. That will help you notice when things begin to change. The first 10 minutes, you will almost be entirely safe. Alterations are typically minor. The wallpaper may change suddenly, shifting from one pattern to another. Any paintings on display are likely to rearrange their contents or reposition their placements. If you feel like the eyes on the portraits are following you, that is because they are. Don't panic, you're still safe. Minutes 6 through 15 usually includes unexplainable auditory events. You may hear laughter from the corner of the room, a child crying from the pantry, or whispers floating from under the foosball table. Again, during this period of time, you are still likely not in any significant danger. However, if someone calls your name or asks you a question directly, it goes without saying that you shouldn't respond. The final 15 minutes are less consistent than the previous 15. You may see unusual shadows that begin to form familiar shapes if you stare too long. Don't. Reflective surfaces will show you clever lies. They can't injure you, but it might distract you. You want the timer on your watch to beat every minute during the last 10 minutes. It is very easy to lose track of time down there. Most likely, the room will shift. The beige couch pushed up against the southern wall might become 2 red chairs the second time you look. Or a small coffee table or a black door. Rugs will become tiles, which will become stones, which will become grass. The final 5 minutes in the basements are optional. There's some risks. Shadows might bump into your leg, swimming in unseen currents. 1 or 2 might even take a bite. It's rare for them to engage beyond that. Doors and windows and holes and tunnels will appear. They will call to you, each to their own. Some will even pull with a type of soft gravity. All are harmless as long as you stay put. Make sure that you never lose sight of the stairs. The real stairs, not the one that pass through the walls like boils and crawl about the room. It's quite an experience. The basement, as long as you cross the threshold back before the timer reaches 30 minutes. For some reason we don't understand, it takes about half an hour for the room to become fully aware of your presence. And when it wakes up, it's hungry. Send out the address. Let's do an experiment and see who can last 31 minutes. The next story shows us the length psychics will go to. Posted by Mintymidnight. My friends say they are psychic. I'm not sure why I hang out with Kyle. He's kind of a douchey person. His entire job is scamming grieving families out of their money. It's kind of sad how desperate people get. They just want to talk to someone they lost. They latched onto Kyle's vague words, genuinely believing what they hear.
Did someone in your family have a letter E in their name? I'm getting a tight feeling in my chest, like they can't breathe. They tell me something about a vacation.
You see, real easy to attach someone you know to that. It makes me kind of sick knowing what he's doing. Kyle's quite the character though. That's probably why I hang out with him. He has this huge crystal ball that shines and shimmers, and an electric blue cape that he always wears, even when he's not doing a reading. He dyes his hair the same shade of bright blue. Even when he's not working, he still keeps that going. He offers to read to random people on the streets or in the supermarket. It weirds a lot of people out. Sometimes I think it's not really an act. Sometimes I think he sincerely believes he's psychic.
You need help, dude?
He ignores me, like he always does. Kyle loves his echo chamber. He turns to me with a smirk and says,
You ready to summon the dead?
The owners of the house greet him warmly, and they sit down to do the stupid reading. I've been on so many of these. They all follow the same formula. It starts to bore me. After about 15 minutes listening to Kyle drone on and on, I get up from my seat and look at the fancy artworks covering the walls instead. Like usual, nobody notices. Nobody acknowledges the other person who walks in behind Kyle. Nobody offers me tea or cookies or asks me my name or shakes my hand. When I get bored, I start wandering around the house. Nobody tells me to stop being noisy. When I say something to Kyle, I know he won't listen. Even though he says he's psychic, I know he's lying. We have a real sixth sense OP here. Excellently done. Good. That's all for now, and remember, have a nightmarish night.